Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, it's now 9 o'clock, and I want to welcome everybody to the Wednesday, May the 22nd County Council meeting. We're going to begin by going into closed session.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Gowdy. Resolve that council resolve itself into the committee of the whole closed session as authorized under section 239 of the Municipal Act to consider adoption of the closed minutes of meetings held February 18, 2026 and labor relations or employee negotiations as it relates to attendance management.
Comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Approved. Thank you. And as a reminder, you'll need to put your cell phone in the box as you go in the room. Thank you. Pressure. There we go. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back from our closed session. We'll deal with item number 2.2, return to council.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, seconded by Counselor Gowdy, resolve that council rise from committee of the whole closed session without reporting.
Comments, questions? All those in favor? Approved. Thank you. As is our practice, we begin our sessions with the reading of the land acknowledgement statement. We begin this gathering by acknowledging and celebrating those traditional lands as the gathering place for the First Nations and their ancestors who are entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. We do so respecting both the land and the Indigenous people who continue to walk with us through the world. Today, the county is committed to working with Indigenous peoples and all residents to pursue a united path of reconciliation. First item on the agenda is the amendment. There are no amendments to the agenda. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature of. Are there any notice of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, move on. Item number 5, adoption of the minutes.
Moved by Counselor Leonard, seconded by Counselor Lichty, resolve that the minutes of the regular council meeting held April 15th, 2026 be adopted.
Comments, questions, additions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Passed. Item number 6, delegations. It's my pleasure to introduce Julia Atherley and Miss Amy Colburn, who will be just updating for us and reviewing with us the True Friends Supported Independent Living. Good morning.
Good morning. Morning, Warden, mayors, councillors, chief, and staff. I am Julia Atherley. I'm the president of True Friends Supported Independent Living. I'm a 25-year resident of Harrowsmith, and I have 3 grown-up children, one of whom has autism. I'm accompanied today by my colleague, Amelia Colburn. We're here to increase awareness about the absence of affordable housing in Frontenac County for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We would also like to tell you about our organization and solicit any support you may be able to provide. So, I'm just gonna do that. There we go. People with intellectual and developmental disabilities, or IDD for short, are all ages in our community. IDDs are lifelong neurodevelopmental conditions that begin generally before the age of 22 years old. They include conditions such as autism, like my son, Down syndrome, fetal alcohol syndrome, and brain injury. In order to understand how many people in Frontenac County have IDD, we looked to the Stats Canada Disability Survey of 2022, which found that 1.5 Canadians aged 15 and over have developmental disability alone, just developmental disability. So based on the population of Frontenac County, we estimate that there are around 470 residents over the age of 14 with developmental disabilities. It's important to note that this does not include children aged 14 years and younger, and it also doesn't include people with other IDD disorders. Therefore, the number of residents affected is likely much higher. From what we're hearing from local teachers, we can expect that number to rise in the coming years as children complete high school. Add to this the number of their parents, many of whom are seniors, such as myself, and their family members and the friends who support them in our community. And you can see that this issue touches a lot of Frontenac residents. Many of you probably know or support someone who in this cohort. These support connections in our community are so important to the people with IDD, and yet many are forced to leave the community to find a place to live. So the problem, currently there are no affordable housing options in Frontenac County for persons with IDD who need 24/7 support, at least that I have been able to find. as a parent of a young man with IDD. The process for these adults and their family is that they apply for wait lists for funded group homes in Kingston. That's the closest location where any of them are. There are some private homes in Charlotte Lake that I know of, but they are far too expensive for most families to afford. The wait lists for funded group homes are generally decades long. And the typical scenario is that these folks remain on the wait list until their family support situation becomes dire. Typically, that is when their caregiver dies or becomes incapacitated. So that's what the caregivers have to face in order to find a funded group home. And so eventually when they have to transition, it's under traumatic circumstances and they are forced to leave their home community to go to a group home somewhere in Kingston, and they usually have no choice as to where. So that's the scenario we're all trying to avoid here. TrueFriend believes that the solution is to develop and operate small group homes so these residents can remain and thrive in their communities. The transition for residents to group homes can happen in a positive and controlled way. Their friends and family can stay engaged with their lives and they can contribute to the health and diversity of our community. Thanks. So looking at TrueFriend, TrueFriend is a local grassroots organization made up of family members and friends and supporters of people with IDD who need housing. The organization was incorporated in 2024 and became a registered charity in January 2025. It currently has 20 members who range in age from their 20s to their late 60s. We recognize the importance of mentoring young people to become the organization's future leaders. We know we need this. And the members have a wide variety of talents, experience, and expertise to contribute. We're always looking for new members and folks in need or folks that just want to help out to this great cause. I've shown we have a website, the address is shown on the slide. So before forming TrueFriend, we researched and consulted with other similar organizations who had been successful in creating supportive homes in other communities, such as Peterborough and London, Ontario, have great examples. So on the slide pictured here are 5 of the people who inspire our organization. They are children of members. They all have IDD, and they hope to live in a TrueFriend group home someday. So our mission is to develop and operate an affordable supportive home in South Frontenac for adults with IDD. We focused in on South Frontenac for this pilot project group home because this is the home of several of our member families. We know that it's clear the need is much greater than just one home. Hence, we plan to build on the success of this first home and develop additional homes in other communities, ideally in Frontenac County. So for the pilot project, we're focusing on a new build option as opposed to purchase or rent because of the cost of accessibility retrofits and the general scarcity of suitable facilities of the right size in the area. Although we clearly are flexible to other solutions as those opportunities arise. So our vision is to develop a small group home for 4 to 5 residents with at least one residential care worker present 24/7. Ideally, the homes would be in settlement areas for access to amenities and have accessible features. TrueFriend intends to operate the homes, providing employment in the region, engaging with the community for support, and making the county a more attractive place to live. So this brief overview of our project plan for the pilot group home, you can see we have completed a statement of requirements in order to determine that the home should be about 3,000 square feet. We've completed a rough order of magnitude cost estimate of 1.2 million, which addresses requirements such as accessibility, space, energy efficiency, and development costs. Our financial strategy is to raise the capital funds for development and construction using grants, donations, and fundraising events. For grants, we initially planned on CMHC, the Affordable Housing Program, but with the announcement of Build Canada Homes by the current federal government and CMHC being ceased, at least those programs being ceased, We're now faced with a challenge that our project is too small scale for a Build Canada Homes application. So we've linked up with CADCO, the Affordable Housing Development Corporation that's based in Ottawa but covers this region, who, aside from providing excellent advice, are developing an aggregate model for rural municipalities and nonprofits involved in affordable housing. The model is intended to pool rural requirements and organizations to access funding from Build Canada Homes for development and construction. They're also looking at providing training to build capacity and developing affordable housing, and to explore housing solutions such as modular construction. True Friend will be holding fundraising events as well, and we'll be talking with potential donors and supporters, both private and commercial. We recognize that we may need to seek a loan as well. The provision of a donated building lot is key for us to achieve affordability, to keep the capital costs down. And we have appealed to South Frontenac Township Council to use a portion of a property the township owns in the village of Sydenham. But we understand that with other planning priorities and the need for supporting studies, it will likely be at least a couple of years before they're able to consider how they plan to use this property. And we understand that the need for that. So to operate the home, we will look mainly to resident fees supported by operating grants and donations. We'll just stay on this slide. So looking at our progress this year, we're further developing our project plan and are integrating professional expertise in the not-for-profit affordable housing sector. I mentioned CADCO, but have also been offered professional services at a very reasonable fee from Insight Project Consulting, and that's an experienced Kingston consulting firm with a social betterment ethos to the company. We're continuing to build those partnerships though, and we're super pleased with the reactions we get when we share our proposal with potential community supporters. They just love the idea and absolutely see the need. So Habitat for Humanity Kingston, for example, has offered support, as has Lodestar Structures on Sydenham Road. So we're going to continue this energetic networking, of course, to build those potential partnerships. Finally, we'll be launching a fundraising campaign this year. But our key challenges right now is development funding. Aside from fundraising efforts, I mentioned we're hoping to find grants to help with that. So, last slide, support sought from Frontenac County. As I mentioned at the start of the briefing, our main intent today is to provide awareness of our cause and our efforts. To be frank, we don't have an explicit request of Frontenac County at this time, as we're not sure of the capabilities that the county can offer. We would like your advice on, however, to further develop our project and what we can do there. Should there be a path to funding for development, we'd certainly engage with that. We also see immense value in the council's connections within the community as we seek partners who have similar needs to ours and partners who can support our mission. So in conclusion, I'd like to thank you very much for your service to this county. It is appreciated, and for your time today. Thank you.
Gia, thank you for your presentation. Very much appreciated. I'd like now to ask Council if they have any questions or comments for you.
Thanks.
Councilor Greenwood Spears.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and I'm glad that you mentioned the adult fetal alcohol syndrome spectrum disorder and that, because it wasn't in your hard copy and that, and the challenges to get any accurate diagnosis for many people in the community. So I do appreciate the lack of resources that people with challenges have. And they shouldn't all be pushed towards Kingston, where it's an unfamiliar environment and away from the people that care about them and love. So I commend you for your effort. And I'm just wondering, when you're talking about partnerships, if you've thought of good groups like the Kinsmen, Rotary, groups that have business people involved in that and are very attuned to raising money for good causes and that and tend to bite right into something like this. It's good that you looked at Peterborough and London. In Waterloo, there is things as well. Part of my background was finding places for young adults that were aging out because their parents were in their 80s and that, and they had to find something. So I know it's a real challenge and a concern. It's unfortunate that it seems like it's really a building lot that you need to have anchored and that for you to move forward. Like it's one thing to talk about the development, but it's still pie in the sky if you haven't got that building lot. So I'm just wondering, maybe our expertise will allow for how you can carve out some land from Crown or something else. I don't know, but it is certainly a need. It's a high need in that, and as you've identified, 470, and it's probably 3 times that if we ever had everybody diagnosed.
Absolutely.
And that, but in the end, it struck me the Hanson fund that you can now will your home to somebody that's getting a disability payment. I believe it's around 300,000 in value and that can not be penalizing the person anymore. That might be an option somewhere along the line for those that are ambulatory and that haven't got the most physical severity in that. But no, I think your group is doing a wonderful job, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you very much. It's great input.
Other comments, questions from council? Oh, Councillor?
Thank you, and thank you, Julia, for coming. Have you reached out to Jane Hartley at the City of Kingston? They are a provider for affordable housing for the county, and they are very successful in getting grants through the federal government. And I think that if you approached them and came to one of the committees, you would make a lot of connections there that might be helpful in furthering your project.
That's actually on the top of my to-do list, because that's the advice I've received from our advisors, Insight, absolutely. So I'm looking to try to get a connection there, if not to, because there is this issue with Kingston and Frontenac Housing Corporation, sort of, but not really covering what we're looking for, but they certainly can offer insight into funding. So I absolutely, that is on the top of my rather lengthy to-do list, but yeah. I
I'll
appreciate the
send you-
connection though.
I'll send you an email with the
Oh,
connection
awesome.
attached to it for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Vanderwall?
Just out of my ignorance, Julie, New Leaf Link is a day program.
That's
and
right.
This is, the difference is obviously you're trying to create housing for these. right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the same cohort. New Leaf Link is another charity that I'm involved in that runs a day program for adults with IDD. And we do have a lot of seniors too, volunteers and so on. But that is the connection to the community for us. It's a pretty strong one, but there's still so many people in the community that we're not able to reach. So, and you know, throughout the county. So, yeah.
Sorry, Julia, I believe our CEO has a question for you.
Yes.
Not a question, just a comment. So right now, the City of Kingston, as our service provider, they're undertaking a 10-year housing and homelessness plan. They have various surveys and things out, so it might be good to engage and provide input as they work through that plan.
Absolutely. I do get the emails on that. So thank you very
Yep.
much.
And Mr. Farrell, can I assume that if Julia has additional questions, she can contact you directly?
Yep, that's fine as well.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
So Julia, thank you for your presentation, and Amy sitting quietly in the background making notes. Thank you so much for your presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Continuing with the agenda, item number 7, proclamations, Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Awareness Month.
Through you, Warden, if it's okay, I'm just going to read the resolve clause here. So moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Smith. Therefore, be it resolved, the Council of the County of Frontenac hereby proclaims June as Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Awareness Month and June 27th as Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder Awareness Day in the County of Frontenac, and encourages those struggling to reach out for support.
Comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Pass, thank you. Second proclamation is National Indigenous Peoples' Day.
Through you, Warden, again, I'm just asking to read the therefore clause, so resolve clause, so Counselor, moved by Counselor Greenwood Spears, seconded by Counselor Leonard. Therefore be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac hereby proclaims Sunday, June 21st, 2026 as National Indigenous Peoples' Day in Frontenac County.
Comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Passed. Item number 8, move into committee of the whole.
Moved by Counselor Smith, seconded by Counselor Lichty, that council adjourn and meet as committee of the whole council with Warden in the chair.
Comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Approved. Thank you. Briefings, number 9, 9.1 CEO briefing. Mr. Farrell?
So good morning, Warden, Deputy Warden, and Council. As always, I'll take you through the CIO's monthly report for May. I'll touch on the main points and happy to answer any questions. So first off, just to highlight a couple items from my May schedule. On May 5th, we held a joint Frontenac CIO Treasurers meeting here at the county. We covered a variety of topics, including a presentation from CRCA on the ongoing amalgamation of conservation authorities. We received GIS and IT updates. We had a presentation on the use of artificial intelligence and a start to a policy framework. And the Treasurers Group coordinated a presentation from Prudent Investments. On May 27th, I'll be meeting with the City of Kingston's CIO. We continue to meet and discuss common issues and opportunities for collaboration and partnership. And our leadership teams will be meeting again in June. There we go. So in terms of a human resources update, as of May 13th, we've had 159 postings. We recently welcomed 3 summer students, which I'll speak to later. Fairmount recruitment is ongoing. In Frontenac paramedics, we had 21 permanent part-time paramedics hired, and they started orientation on May 4th. Frontenac paramedics have also hired a permanent admin clerk as of May 19th. We have an acting manager of marine services at the moment, and we have offers out and accepted offers for 2 permanent part-time ferry operators. OPSU bargaining, we continue to look for dates for that. No new mediations or arbitrations, but we do have 5 OPSU arbitrations scheduled or mediations scheduled in 2026 and none active with CUPE. The HR department has supported and resolved 4 of 6 investigations. Some updates on the progress of the joint fire and paramedic base at Taylor Kidd and Demers in the City of Kingston. The contract is now approximately 18% complete. Insulated concrete forms, structural steel, and backfill is well underway. As council will recall, this is at a location that was identified in the ORH study to address future demands. And this project is being led by the city, with the county will lease that space when complete. Superintendent Esford, along with paramedics Sam and Kim, recently attended Ontario First Responders Mental Health Conference last month. And the knowledge and information that they gathered will help support the peer support team. This photo shows the second cohort of Best Practice Spotlight Organization champions who completed their training session at Fairmount Home on April 16th. Fairmount is almost 2 years into its 3-year BPSO designation journey. And when the full designation is achieved, it will signal that the home exceeds professional standards for resident care. And a huge congratulations to the entire Fairmount Home team. Fairmount Home's annual plant sale was a huge success, from planting seeds and daily watering in the greenhouse to digging up perennials and pricing plants. It takes a lot of effort to make this event run smoothly. Thanks to the programming team for making the day such a success, with over $1,200 raised to support the resident garden group. Total digital engagements for April were up 3% from March, but down to 6% for the same period last year. Top performing items related to the council discussion and vote on Alto high-speed rail, Paramedic Mark's 40 years of service announcement, as well as Nurse Katie's 5 years of service. With the arrival of spring, the number of planning inquiries and applications has started to rise. The two recent official plan amendments in North Frontenac for additional residential units and site plan control have been approved, and no appeals were received. Multiple planning studies are underway. The Engage Frontenac page for the Natural Heritage Study is now live. If you do have an opportunity to check out the site, you'll see some innovative mapping from our GIS team, and you'll soon hear from Joe Gallivan some more details on our Natural Heritage Study. Background data collection is underway for population, housing, and employment projections, and county planning staff recently assisted with an update to the North Frontenac Community Improvement Plan, which was approved by the township on May 1st. The Economic Development Team is hosting a business networking event on Wolf Island 2 weeks from now. Businesses from across the region have been invited over to explore Marysville and do some networking, and it'll be a kickoff to the busy summer tourism season. Lots happening on the KMP Trail this month. There was recently a wildfire spotted off the trail near Titchburn, and thanks to a coordinated response by emergency services, the trail was quickly closed and partners were notified. An ATV ride scheduled for that day with over 160 participants managed to safely detour around the event and still enjoy their ride. Richard has also been coordinating annual maintenance. Trail grading is now complete between Orser Road and Westport Road, and dust suppression is scheduled upcoming. The Frontenac ATV Club was able to secure a grant for $5,000 to help with the cost of the dust suppression. As well, the Economic Development Team plans to attend the Lakes and Trails Festival in Verona on June 20th. The EWC held a Queen's Park Advocacy Day on Monday, May 11th. Warden Saunders and I were busy with multiple delegations and with various ministers, MPPs, and their political staff. Advocacy focused on economic resilience, strengthening municipal infrastructure, and healthcare access across Eastern Ontario. Specifically, we had specific meetings on community paramedicine and the need for permanent funding and expanded funding for that for that good program. We also had advocacy around a regulated paramedic college. These are just some photos of the event. We had lots of ministers come out in support of the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, as well as the Premier, Doug Ford. And here's a couple other pictures of some of the delegations that Warden Saunders and I were involved in. A big warm welcome to Lauren, Donnan, and Sivan, who joined the county this year as our summer students or interns. They have been hard at work in the office and out in the field, and we always enjoy having young people around, bringing new, fresh ideas and additional capacity to the team. And finally, a big congratulations to Christy Elderhurst, who is stepping into the role of Manager of Continuous Improvement to help lead process improvement initiatives across our organization. Christy has been involved in a number of lean projects and recently helped lead staff Yellow Belt training. She'll continue to oversee the GIS function and support the county and the 4 townships. Christy is also pursuing Lean Six Sigma Black Belt certification, and we look forward to the contributions she will make in this role. With that, I'll take any questions or comments from council.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell. I do want to comment on one aspect before it goes on. There's a group called the EOWC CAO team, which Kevin is a major part of. That's the group that does all the groundwork and prepares all this information for those with the suits and ties on to make presentations to ministers. So thank you for that work. And I believe you led 2 delegations.
Yeah, and specifically related to the healthcare pieces. So I sit on the CAO Healthcare Working Group.
Thank you for that. I'd also draw your attention to communications and number 31 and 35, which are from the EOWC that provide more information on all the work that went on. So thank you. Comments, questions for the CAO? Councilor Greenwood Spears.
Thank you. A question, when I noticed the heavy truck on the KMP trail and that looked like a water truck when we were talking about the fire that was out there, just wondering about some of our bridges and what they're waiting for. And it seems like a great advantage that we can provide in suppressing some of those fires and that, because certainly as it gets drier and people with their cigarettes, they'll probably be worse and worse. But I'm just wondering, do we have a weight limit and do we have a backup? Because I imagine a full fire water truck wouldn't be appropriate for some of our bridges, but do we have something like that? And the second question is regarding, I see you had a meeting with Prambeat Sicaria and that up at Queens Park, and I'm just wondering the bones of that meeting, since transportation and that for Frontenac Islands is always one of the sore points.
So I'll start with the first question around the bridges, and I might turn it over to Richard Allen.
Might. Most of our bridges are rated 20-ton highway rated, so they can handle most loads. There's one or two bridges that are rated 12 or 14-ton. So for the most part, we can handle most heavy equipment that goes on the trail. In the event that the bridge that it doesn't have that high of rating, it's used when we do construction. We either try to run an empty truck over the bridge and we add steel plates to support it. And so those kinds of things can happen if there's a prolonged operation in place.
And your second question was around the delegation with Minister Sicaria, and I wasn't in that specific delegation, so I don't know if the warden has anything to add on that.
Thank you. The discussion focused on infrastructure requirements across Eastern Ontario. Again, the EOWC deals with regional issues that not specific to township issues or local issues, but he had some very complimentary comments to make about the working relationship we have developed with Eastern Ontario operational staff. He acknowledged that there's been many challenges with ferry services. And then as a sidebar, I had an opportunity to ask him for an update on the study that's suggesting or recommending a new ferry for Howe Island, but there's been no follow-up on that one. Any other questions? Councillor Licky.
The comment, first of all, Kevin, you're not the tallest person in the world. I'd like to see you front and center, so rather than hiding in the back and I have to look for you in the pictures. If we're playing such an important role, I think, quite frankly, I think you should make sure that you get closer to the front. I mean, it's,
I will
we're the
comment
ones
on
making
that.
this work.
Noted.
I'll come on that. It's a scramble.
I know it's a scramble, been there. The other thing that the EOWC is talking about is the centralized asset management program. And that's been around for a little over a year. And I don't really know what they're thinking with it, but it's being driven by Peterborough and the Kawarthas, unless that's changed. And I just don't want to see us, especially when we're looking at the townships, that we get left behind and end up into a system that may penalize us in the long run. So, if you're a big municipality, if everybody's looking at something from the same perspective, that's great. But if money's being awarded at a provincial level, it could be going, we may not be getting the share that we're entitled to. That's just a concern I've got.
Mr. Farrell, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so just a comment, all municipalities are required to have asset management plans and are working towards that. The idea behind the advocacy with the EOWC is to standardize so that municipalities are being compared apples to apples, so that no municipality has an advantage if they're able to spend more money or develop a stronger asset management plan. It puts everyone on a level playing field. So that's the intent behind that advocacy.
And if I can add to that, there was a general discussion about the fact that we're choosing different consultants. Those consultants all come in with their own perspective on how to evaluate an asset. So it was some of that lack of consistency that was part of the issue. So, Councillor?
So on that, if you hire a consultant and he looks at, or she looks at whatever you've got, say it's a bridge or a building, they're going to say, well, it's got 3 to 5 years or 5 to 7 years. And when you see the actual plan, it'll be in 3 years and 5 years, because they're not going to say it's 5 years and it fails in 3. It's a little bit of CYA. And a lot of this asset management stuff is based on experience and it's subjective. So how you would, if the province would create some kind of overall criteria for assessing something or assessing different assets, that would be a good guideline. But I don't think you'll ever get 100% compliance across the province. And it depends on how much money is coming down from the hierarchy, and if any. I just want to make sure that we're not left out.
Kevin, did you want to comment on that? Or?
Just noted, and I think the EOWC will continue to advocate for those pieces.
Thanks.
But that lack of consistency clearly was part of the overall message, right? So thank you. Any other comments or questions for the CAO? Seeing none, Kevin, thank you for your presentation. Our next briefing is 9.2 Director's Briefing. Mr. Joe Gallivan, Director of Planning and Economic Development, will provide council with a briefing on the Natural Heritage Study. Mr. Gallivan.
Good morning, Warden, members of council. The purpose of my conversation with you this morning is just to make you aware that the study is underway and it's about to go out to the public. And I want to make sure that your township are aware of this. Consultation is about to be extensive starting next month right through to the end of the year. The project itself will not be completed during the term of your council. It'll be delivered to the next council, and the main recommendation will be significant amendments to the county official plan on natural heritage policies. The township official plans won't be touched as a result of that until they start to get updated. But because the public are going to be consulted, I wanted to make sure council was aware. Your township staff were sent emails by the consultants last Friday, so things are underway. And also, I know that this council did not approve the funding for this project, so I want to make sure that you're up to date and know what's going on. It's a major piece of planning work we're about to start. And so I just want to quickly paint the picture of why this is so important to Frontenac. Look at what we have. We've got North and Central have significant amount of crown land. There's lakes all across the three townships on the mainland, and there's all kinds of wetlands even into Wolf Island. So that's the starting piece about who we are. And our natural environment has a lot of impact on us, not just environmentally, but socially, culturally, and there's an economic impact as well. So I've done this before. I've presented these images before to organizations, and they're quite surprised when I go through this. So this is an aerial photograph of our region, and then you add the lakes, and then you add the rivers and streams, and then you add the wetlands. So that's really who we are. Our natural resources are a very important part of who we are. In terms of doing the planning, so we have to follow the provincial planning rules. They have a section on protecting natural heritage, and that section hasn't changed in almost 20 years. It's very clear. You shall protect these features over the long term. And then more to what we're trying to do, the connectivity of these natural features should be maintained or restored or improved. And that's really one of the bases of this new piece of work we're starting. And then what does this term natural heritage mean? Because it is planning jargon, I recognize that. So more to the point, it's about protecting nature, it's about conservation, protecting our wilderness and biodiversity. We've done this work before. We did it back in 2012 when we were starting work on the very first county official plan. And this again was a foundational piece. It was the first piece of work that looked regionally at how we should protect our natural environment. And that resulted in policies that are currently in our county official plan about natural heritage. And then our official plan map, it's not prescriptive. All it has is our regional road system, our settlement areas, and then the watershed boundaries, because our plan is watershed based. It is focusing on trying to deal with issues like natural heritage that cross our municipal boundaries. And then just to sum it up, we've got 4,000 square kilometers, almost 3,000 of that is natural heritage. 73% of our land area is natural heritage. And more to the point, why this is an important land use planning issue, 90% of our planning approvals in the townships involve a natural heritage component, whether it's lake development or somebody wanting to build near a wetland, those kinds of things. 90% of our applications have some kind of natural heritage component. So this new approach we're taking goes away from the standard provincial rules, which the 2012 study did, because we were still learning then about what we needed to do. This approach is used by the Ministry of Natural Resources all across Southern Ontario. But I've learned that it's probably not the best method for protecting that 73% of our natural area in Frontenac. Not to get into the details, but they use this software called a MarkSand model, which runs complicated systems. It says what's on the ground that really needs to be protected. And the metaphor is pearls on a string. Essentially looks at protecting things that are connected together. So there's some wildlife corridors, etc. Now that works fine if you're in Grey County. I mean, look, they don't have a lot of woodlands anymore. It's a really hard thing to connect, but that's not who we are. We have an awful lot of wilderness, obviously. So what we're trying to say is if the current plan doesn't really reflect what's on the ground, we may be missing something, or there could be places where we're being too restrictive and it's not necessary. That is there a difference that makes a difference in, say, protecting an area of natural significance if it's got no connections to anything else? And so we're going to try to look at that as well. And then looking at interconnected nature and how do these systems work together to keep them healthy for the long term. And then here's the approach. I think the last bullet is most important. The province requires you to look at 25-year vision, and we're looking at 100 years. In other words, 3 generations from now. Should we be looking at protecting something that we know is really important to Frontenac and to our natural heritage system that will be here in 3 generations? And this is the example I want to give you. This is called the Kennebec Wetland Complex. You will not find this in any of our official plans or on any provincial websites. So to give you your bearings, this Highway 41 runs along the left-hand side of the screen. Highway 7 runs across diagonally. You've got Kennebec Lake, you've got Big Gull Lake. The headwaters of this complex are Mazenod Lake. Big Gull Lake as well is in there, and Hungry and Mink Lakes. So this area covers 6,200 acres, 2,500 hectares. There's 3 types of wetlands: marshes and fens and swamps. They capture rainfall over their entire area. So they can, like a sponge, they can hold back enough water to stop flooding of the Salmon River for up to 4 days after a major storm. And with the climate change issues we're dealing with, this complex becomes even more important. Now, if you look at the provincially significant maps, less than 7% of this area is protected. That's because there's only a couple of big wetlands here that they deem to be provincially significant. The rest are little, almost potholes, but they're all connected together and they do something really important. So one of the reasons we're doing this new approach is to look at this in its entirety and hopefully increase the chance that its natural qualities will be protected for future generations. So what else are we fortunate because of all this nature is we've got natural green infrastructure, as I just mentioned. And Insurance Bureaus of Canada last year wrote a report that says flooding now costs homeowners more than any other climate issue. So we have some advantages with our natural resources to reduce that. And then of course, our safe drinking water. These systems, including that complex I just showed you, do an amazing job filtering and protecting our drinking water. So this is the core question. How do we protect what defines the county for the future? We've hired a consulting team called Natural Resource Solutions. They're an Indigenous owned company. The project manager I'm working with lives in Perth Road Village. He's very familiar with all of Frontenac. He's spent hundreds of hours up in the Shield doing studies. He's a biologist. So that consulting firm and our team will be working with your township staff as we move into consultation. And then last Friday, we released this to the public. So if you type Engage Frontenac Natural Heritage Study, you'll go to the site. As Kevin noted, there's some very amazing mapping that's been done by our GIS department. I want to thank them. I've tried to write this in as plain English as possible, not to complicate things. So if the public asks you any questions, you can point them in this direction. And then that's really it. But I do want to thank in particular two citizens I've met over the years here in Frontenac that have really helped me get a better understanding of what's important on the ground in Frontenac and what's to protect. I've known both these gentlemen for more than 10 years. One is Barry Gilbert on Wolf Island. Barry is a biologist, and I've had plenty of conversations with him. And then, of course, Gray Merriam from Kennebec Lake. These two gentlemen have been spent a lot of time talking to me, sharing their insights. They worked with me with Queen's Planning students a few years ago. We asked Queen Planning students to look, what is the best way we should protect our natural resources in Frontenac? And their recommendation was to use this landscape ecology approach. So Mr. Gilbert, Mr. Merriam, if you're listening, thank you so much for helping me understand what we need to do to protect for 3 generations. Thank you.
And your thank you to those two gentlemen is well noted. Can I ask the council for questions and comments? Deputy Warden Vanderwall.
Well, when you say 90% is natural area, and then after that, you said it's going to make it easier to develop. I don't know how those two things go together. And I hope this isn't just subjective of all the people. I don't know how you get a cross cut of all comments, but mostly the people that are going to comment are the people that are already there and don't want any more development. So I hope that it's more in depth than just subjective comments too. But if 90% of this map you had is going to be difficult, I just don't know how it gets easier.
Through you, Warden. So yeah, 90% of our planning approvals currently there's something of natural heritage on a property. When I said that some approvals might get easier, what I meant was right now we follow a checklist dictated by the province. You need to protect this, you need to protect that. So again, pointing to Grey County, yeah, you do. But if this is something that doesn't really, it's within the big picture, and that's the important thing. This is a regional study. Within the big picture has less importance than the province may think it does, then maybe we don't look at that. And they will be consulting with, yes, they're going to talk to cottage associations, but they're going to talk to the NGOs as well. They're going to have a lot of Indigenous consultation. But one of the things I haven't mentioned is probably 75% of the cost of this study is GIS mapping analysis. That will take the subjectivity out of it. And we have such an advanced level of detail on GIS now that it will be factual, in my opinion.
Thank you for making that comment then. I appreciate that.
Councillor Smith.
I guess you're not telling us something we didn't know. But I think my worry is in order to have development, it's going to be a long process for folks because everybody has something on their land, it seems. And I hope the process is one that can be simple and fairly speedy. Otherwise, it will stop development in our townships. And that's a worry.
Through you, Warden. So one example I will give you that we hope is a faster process is the work we're doing right now with your township staff on the community planning permit system. That system is more comprehensive than minor variances in site plan, but it will be faster, generally speaking, for a property owner. So I wouldn't equate slower planning approvals with this work we're doing necessarily.
Councillor Fowler.
Yes, thanks for your presentation, Joe. Regarding the planners, would they be able to suggest people not develop on the wetlands? Do they have that power to do that?
Through you, Warden. So again, the standard, and we have to follow it, is the provincial policy statement, which is very clear on protecting wetlands, certain types of wetlands. So I'm not sure if that's going to change very much for those type of natural features.
Councillor Lidke.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Joe. I really appreciate it. I was really surprised when you took the overall map of the county and showed the various wetlands and the rivers and so on. I thought that North Frontenac always had the most, but we don't. South Frontenac has the most. And when you think about it, it makes sense, closer to the lake and so on. I have two concerns. First concern is, and they're not going to say bad, but I have the same concern that my colleagues across the table here have about impact on future development. Don't want to hinder it within reason. And the other one is that we have a provincial system or provincial software that governs majority of the province. And here we are stepping outside of that into a much more, by the sound of it, advanced software system. So we're going to know this much while the rest of the province knows only this much. Are we shooting ourselves in the foot, or is the province moving towards it? Or are we just setting ourselves aside and we'll take ourselves out of future consideration?
Through you, Warden. So, the provincial policy statement is a set of policies that are best practices, but they're the floor of good planning policy. They're not the ceiling. So the reason this study, in my opinion, is important is because of what we have on the ground right now. And when we interviewed, we got down to a selection of 4 consulting firms. And 3 of them said to us in the interviews, get ready, development's coming to Frontenac. You don't want to be the Kawarthas. You don't want to be the Muskokas. You don't want to be Southwest Ontario. The fact that the county is being proactive with this work is obviously, in their opinion, a positive thing. And I believe it is too, because we have these pretty amazing pieces in Frontenac that we really need to take a hard look at and say, do we need to protect them for the next 100 years?
Could you explain what you meant by we don't want to be these other regions? Is that because it's just, not well planned development, or I'm not sure what you meant by it?
Sorry, through you, Warden. They have had challenges keeping up with the amount of development within their planning policies regime. In my opinion, of the 4 townships, we still have to work on Frontenac Islands, but the 3 townships, north, central, and south, have really good, strong waterfront protection policies that I worked with Ministry of Environment on and best practices. We're doing the community planning permit system. And now we're doing this regional project that'll come up with policies that will be delivered into the county official plan. So there's not a lot of regions like ours. I would argue that Renfrew might be, because they have an awful lot of crown land, Lennox and Addington, and parts of Hastings, and parts of Leeds and United Counties, Leeds and Grenville. But that map speaks volumes, I think, to the average person about the resources we have, and some of these may disappear. It's called death by paper cuts, if I can put it that way. So.
Thank you. Councilor Greenwood-Spears.
Yes, thank you for the presentation and the concept of having 100-year plans. I know that other countries have 500-year plans, and that they really are looking down the road, and the 7th generation is sort of the planning for the First Nations. And that when I looked at this, it's nice that you're looking at fish habitat. I want to make sure when you're talking about Frontenac Islands that the Akwesasne are responsible for a lot of the fish habitat along the river. And that it's one thing to deal with one group for the inland lakes, but when we're talking musky lunge and smallmouth bass and things of that nature, and that it's down in Frontenac Islands, and making sure that's well protected is going to be one of the bigger challenges, because that affects the entire lake and river. When you're talking about water source, basically, in that, and I appreciate your comments about those other areas that got probably overdeveloped on land that didn't necessarily lend itself even for septic systems, let alone conservation of water. It's going to be very important for the mainland townships, and that on the islands, and that probably the majority have waterfront access for water, but it's really crucial in that. So I do appreciate that you're working on that. And the other piece that caught my attention and concern is tree protection. We don't seem to have a canopy protection, and it's not fashionable and that to make sure that we keep our canopy, but it's crucial. And that as climate change comes and that the trees are our lungs. And if we don't have that protection, especially along the waterfront, we'll end up with more and more soil erosion, because you're right, the nature of climate change is it turns on like a tap, the rainwater. It's no longer just gentle rain. And they've been getting it more and more down at the other end of the lakes, and it's coming our way. So I appreciate that it can delay 4 days, the flooding of the Salmon River and that, but we're at the tip of the spear when you see that much water that is involved in this area. So great to see that there's going to be long-term planning. I look forward to it. Thanks.
Deputy Warden Vanderwall.
If my memory serves me right, was this not something that conservation was getting out of and we had to have this in place too, or that's not this study?
Through you, or no, that's,
What was that then? Something else that conservation was doing and then
they
clicked-
used to comment when there was planning applications. They used to make comments on natural heritage features. They don't do that anymore. That's why we collectively hired a consulting firm to help us with those things.
Seeing no other comments or questions, Mr. Yalva, thank you for your very detailed presentation. And those maps are pretty enlightening, so thank you for that. We'll now continue with the agenda. Item number 10, there is no unfinished business. Item number 11, consent reports from the Chief Administrative Officer. We have none, that's my understanding. Item number 12, Committee of Management of Fairmont Homes. Item 12.1, move from Committee of Management of Fairmont Homes.
Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Deputy Warden Vanderwall, that Committee of the Whole Council adjourn and meet as a Committee of Management of Fairmount Home with the Warden in the chair.
Comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Approved. Oh. My apologies. Susan, please go ahead.
I just wanted to speak to the report and see if council had any questions. We're seeking contributions from the capital replacement reserve to mitigate some piping issues that we have, aging piping in the home. I also have our maintenance lead hand and our manager of environmental services here as well, just in case you might have any more specific questions.
So if I can, my apologies again. I'm going to read the motion first. That the Committee of the Whole Council adjourn and meet as Committee of the Management of Fairmont Homes with the Warden in the chair. All those in favor? Approved. Now we're going to have the report.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Gowdy, be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac authorize the use of capital replacement reserve funds for hardware replacement on the heating pumps.
Comments, questions, all those in favor? Approved. Thank you.
You have to have it.
And we'll now continue with the agenda. Item 12.2, report 2026. Okay. We have a new team here at the front.
We just have to return.
Okay, item 12.3, return to Committee of the Whole of Council.
Moved by Councillor Greenwood Spear, seconded by Councillor Leonard, that the Committee of Management of Fairmount Home adjourn and revert back to Committee of the Whole Council.
Comments, questions? All those in favor? Approve. I think we had that one right. Item number 13, recommended reports from the Chief Administrative Officer. 13.1, report 2026-04040. Corporate services transfer of ownership of the Wolf Island ambulance base to the Corporation of the Township of Frontenac Islands.
Moved by Counselor Lichty, seconded by Counselor Smith. Be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac directs staff to provide to the Corporation of the Township of Frontenac Islands the required 6-month termination notice for the building located next to the fire hall on Wolf Island, formerly used as a paramedic base effective December 31st, 2026. And further that staff be directed to work with the Township of Frontenac Island staff to determine the depreciated capital cost of the accommodation building for the purpose of evaluating its purchase by the Corporation of the Township of Frontenac Islands.
Comments, questions? Counselor Greenwood Spears.
Thank you. I understand, and we've all been informed in that of the 10-year plan for the paramedics and how it's not to return to Frontenac Islands, in particular, Wolf Island, to that base. So I can understand the movement towards giving this up. However, from the beginning, I've always articulated the increased risk that this puts our community, especially since we do not have the dual ferry option. And that was cited as one of the reasons why they could comfortably remove our ambulance service from Frontenac Islands, from Wolf Island in particular. So it's unfortunate that this basically closes a door and that forever returning ambulance services to the island and leaving that community at a higher risk than what needs to happen. The CTAS, whether it's 1 through 5, will never be met from Wolf Island because it's a systemic issue that we don't have ambulance coverage, even though we have, in a timely fashion, even though we have an increase in our population for tourism, we have a higher than provincial average vulnerability of population, and it's just very, very unfortunate. And that's a decision of this council, because we are responsible for paramedic services being provided in a fair health equity fashion.
Other comments, questions? Counselor Smith.
Just a comment, if we're transferring the building to the township and something should happen down the road, the building is still there. So I don't see it as an issue. It's just who's gonna own it, whether it's us or if paramedics could go, then we would have to rent it from you or buy it back.
Other comments, questions? Counselor Lichty.
So my understanding, and this is talking to the CAO, we originally built this building and installed a septic system on the deal that if we ever pull out, it would revert to Frontenac Islands and they would pay us for it on a straight line depreciation. So we're sitting there, we don't need it. Maybe Frontenac Islands could use it. And to your point, if they don't, and we decide to put an ambulance, or the next council decides to put ambulances back there, then they could, we could enter into another lease at that point in time.
Counselor Smith, did you have thank you. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the report, the motion? That's passed. Thank you. Item number 13.3, report 2026-042, community, I jumped ahead. 13.2, report 2026-41, transfer from Frontenac Paramedic Equipment Reserve for purchase of power and load systems for 2027 ambulances.
Moved by Deputy Warden Vanderwall, seconded by Councillor Fowler. Resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac receive the Emergency and Transportation Services transfer from Frontenac Paramedics Equipment Reserve for purchase of power load systems report, and further that Council approve the transfer of up to $85,000 to be used in the 2026 budget year for the purchase of 1 new power load system, 1 stretcher, and 1 floor plate for the 2027 ambulances to be potentially received in 2026 as part of our normal replacement cycle.
Comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Fowler.
Yes, could we get a description of this power load system? I'd just like to have an idea what it does.
Chief Gowdy.
Thank you. Through you, Warden. It's a great system and has probably saved countless injuries. But the power load system consists of two parts, one being the stretcher that goes up and down under battery power, and a loading system that will actually lift the stretcher and the patient equipment and slide into the ambulance again, all under power, saving countless back and shoulder injuries.
I just wanted that on the record.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Passed. Item 13.3, report 2026-042, community paramedic program over budget.
Moved by Counselor Gowdy, seconded by Counselor Greenwood Spears, resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac receive the Emergency and Transportation Services Community Paramedic Program over budget report, and further that council approve the transfer of up to $30,000 from the stabilization reserve to cover the extra cost of the community paramedic program.
Comments, questions? Deputy Warden Vanderwall.
So this program was put in sort of on a short term because we got funding, I think. What's the plan going down the road? Nobody wants to cancel anything, I'm sure. But if this isn't budgeted and it's gonna say keep going up, now we've just introduced a program that's gonna be on taxation funding to carry on.
CEO Farrell.
So great point. And again, I touched on it during my briefing. The EOWC continues to advocate for this. It's a program that I think the province, the municipalities, they all support. It's a good program. It's working. It's keeping folks out of the emergency department, less pressures on the healthcare system. So part of our advocacy is around not only permanent funding, but increased funding. So we're not the only county that's starting to run into this. The program's been in place now for a number of years. And the increases has never come. It's always been 100% funding, but it's been capped at we've never seen an increase. So we continue to advocate for that. And I'll be working closely with Chief Gowdy on mitigation factors that we can control in-house to ensure we don't go over budget in future budgets.
Councillor Greenwood Spears.
Yes, speaking to the point that Councillor Vanderwall made, and that this used to be funded entirely by the province and now it's under our umbrella for this or just for the overrun? And that's my first question.
So just for the overrun.
Just for the overrun. Okay, so have any of the work parameters become more flexible? And that, in other words, it was always considered a separate and apart program, which is truly one that doesn't involve a lot of lifting and strain for people. It's doing wellness checks basically for people waiting in the community. So at that time I was told that, you know, we couldn't cross over even light duties or anything of that nature. Is there any more flexibility? Is there potential for that? To get some return on our investment?
CEO Farrell.
I was just going to look to the chief to provide any comments on that.
Through you, Warden, there is a little bit of flexibility there. We do have some options to have people on light duties doing community paramedic work, but generally speaking, we wouldn't replace a normal full-time paramedic in a position with somebody on modified duties.
Deputy Warden Vanderwall.
Well, I just want to make a comment that when these things come to council or staff or whatever, it was like the 70s and 80s when Ontario, everybody gave everybody an arena and then nobody can afford them when it's their own. So you always have to be careful when you add things all the time, because at some point it's gonna, I know it always costs us, even if the province is paying for it, but they always come back to you. And I know it's easy to say you don't want to support programs, but as everything's getting tighter and we're feeling it too, things are getting harder. We're going to start really clamping down on fire. We're going to start doing some of these things because we just can't keep affording everything going up.
Councillor Lickey.
Thank you. This particular program, I mentioned to Kevin, we were back and forth on Victoria Day about, it'd be really nice, and it's too late for us. We only got 3 or 4 meetings left. But for the budget for the next go round, an overall review of what this program is, how many people we're serving, how many paramedics and SUVs we've got involved, and what's the waiting list. Because I know at least there was a major waiting list, and to Councilor Greenwood Spears' point, they do a whole lot more than just wellness checks. They do inoculations, vaccinations, and sometimes I know they're in people's residences 3-4 times a day. They're just providing a stopgap measure, and it seems to work. So I'm in favor of it. I'm not in favor of spending megabucks on this, but it'd be nice to see what the overall picture is. So, which we don't have.
CO Farrell, have you noted the request?
Just a note that I know at a future council meeting, we'll be bringing in information reports on detailed call volumes. We can also look at bringing an update, an information report on the CP program.
Councillor Smith.
I was just going to say how great the program is and how needed it is, especially for shut-ins. At the end of a road that they're not going to see a lot of traffic going by, to have somebody come in and check on them. So somehow the government needs to look at these kinds of programs that they need to be funding if you're going to keep people out of nursing homes. But we'll see.
Other comments, questions? Councillor Gowdy?
Thank you. I just want, I agree with what people are saying around the table. One way or another, we have to pay for something. We want to save money on fire, like it was noted. Each township is spending a lot on sending firefighters to wait till ambulances can get there. We don't have enough doctors. So this program, Community Paramedicine, is filling a gap till you can find a doctor. They're filling the gap to try and save us money on sending firefighters out. So one way or another, you do have to pay. And this might be the stopgap measure that does make it work until we can get the province to pay other things for us.
Follow, Councillor Greenwood Spears.
I appreciate that there needs to be a stopgap measure in the community in that, and there have been other organizations that have done it at a far more cost-effective manner, and that VON comes to mind. And that, but there's many more that are for-profit and not-for-profit, and that compared to the salaries that's involved with paramedics training. So looking at it from a fiscal responsibility perspective, I would be very interested in the return on investment as to what the actual cost of each of these visits are. Thank you.
And I believe CEO Farrell has noted that. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Seeing no other comments, questions, all those in favor? Approved. Thank you. Item number 14, information reports from the Chief Administrative Officer. There are two reports, Report 2026-39 and Report 2026-043. Any comments, questions on those? Seeing none, we'll move on. Item number 15, reports from the Advisory Committee of Council. There are none. Item number 16, return to council.
Moved by Councillor Leonard, seconded by Councillor Lichty, that council revert from committee of the whole council to council.
Comments, questions? All those in favor? Thank you. It's approved. Item number 14, adoption of the report. Sorry, I should apologize. We're developing our new working relationship here. So we're having a few little stumbles, but we'll get better. And it's on me, not on our deputy clerk. Return to council. Did we just do that? Okay. Item number 17, adoption of the report of the committee of the whole of council.
Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Deputy Warden Van Wall, that the report of the committee of the whole council be adopted and that the necessary actions or bylaws be enacted.
Any comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Approved. Item number 18, notices of motions which have been given. Item 18.1, support of funding request from the Township of North Frontenac.
Moved by Councillor Lichty, seconded by Councillor Fowler, whereas County Council has received a request from the Township of North Frontenac regarding funding support for the recruitment and retention of a doctor to work with the Lakelands Family Health Care Organization, and whereas County Council acknowledges its ongoing commitment to healthcare recruitment and retention initiatives as established through a county's 2024-2028 budget and business plan, including annual contributions towards primary care recruitment within the County of Frontenac, and whereas County County Council recognizes that the Township of North Frontenac has committed municipal funding in the amount of 75,000 payable at 15,000 a year for 5 years towards supporting the retention of a much-needed doctor. And whereas this funding would support the recruitment and retention of a doctor to work with the Lakelands Family Healthcare Organization, now therefore it be resolved that the County Council approve the allocation of funding in the amount of 15,000 payable at 3,000 year over 5 years to support the recruitment and retention of a doctor to work with the Lakelands Family Healthcare Center Organization.
Councillor Lickett, I ask you to speak to your motion.
Thank you. So North Frontenac is geographically large. If you draw a line through the center, centered on the half to the east, we go to Lanark, Perth, and Charlotte Lake. Everything to the west goes to this particular healthcare unit. It's the only one there. It services at least half of our population, or about half. It services Addington Highlands, and it also services a portion of the northeast corner of Central Frontenac. So Addington Highlands and North Frontenac work together on this particular clinic, and we funded a doctor search 2 years ago, brought one from Wales, and to get them to stay, because you're in a remote area and there's not a lot of opportunities for the family and so on. We give them 15,000 a year for 5 years each township. And then at the end of 5 years, if they're going to stay, they're going to stay. So this is another doctor that's come from the British Isles or the United Kingdom. And we're asking for that same $15,000 to keep them. This particular retention of this particular doctor, who starts about the end of September, will give a full complement of medical staff, and everybody in that particular catchment area should be able to access a doctor. We're the first one in the Southeast Health Unit. So I've been told, Judy may know more than I do on that, but the reality is this will fill it up, and we're just using the retention money to hold them. And I was going to ask for more, but we kind of, 15,000 over 5 years is not a big ask, and it shows county support.
So comments or questions? Deputy Warden Vanderwall.
This is out of that fund that we put money aside, right, for,
I believe the CEO is acknowledging that's correct.
Through you, Warden, correct.
Any other comments, questions? Councillor Greenwood Spears.
Just out of curiosity, how much is left in the reserve fund that we set aside?
I had just sent a message to our, I know it's a healthy fund, but Alex will pull up that number so that council's aware.
Alex, we're just looking for an opportunity to make sure everybody knew you were back here, so. While that's being looked at,
On that, we've been putting $22,500 away for at least 2 or 3 years. And we contributed 17,500 to the islands for your experiment with or your pilot program with your nurse practitioner. And therefore, this is the only other draw out of this fund. That's one of the reasons I only went with the 3,000.
I think we use some of this fund to go to trade shows and all those other things we've been trying to.
so Alex, whenever you have some information for us. Sorry, I guess we're going to pass it back to the CEO.
Well, I'll try and buy some time for the treasurer to get the number, but we also have been doing other work on healthcare in our community. We're hoping to provide a full update to this council in an upcoming meeting. Just a note, we've also been working closely with FLA OHT as well as our neighboring municipalities, looking at opportunities for healthcare recruitment and retention from a regional perspective. So while we wait for the specific number, there is a healthy reserve amount in that reserve.
If there's a healthy reserve, let's move on and he can find it.
Yeah, I was going to suggest, can you provide that information? Can you provide that information at a later date?
But yeah, what I can suggest is that I'll send a note to all of council as a follow-up if interested for that specific number, but there is a healthy reserve there.
Thank you. Oh, I think we're going back to you, I guess.
I do have the number. So sorry, it took you a little while. It's within another reserve, so you just have to make sure that allotment is accounted for, but we'd have 43,000 remaining as at the end of 25.
Okay, any other comments?
At the end of 25.
Correct.
So then you took out Wolf Island and you took out this here, so that's pretty well gonna take it down quite a ways.
I believe the Wolf Island would have been a 2025 expense, so that's already been accounted for. And
What, so Alex, could I give you a second just to clarify those, that question? In terms of when it was taken out?
certainly, so yeah, the Wolf Island amount was a 2025 expense. I don't see anything that's come out as of 2026.
So Counselor, sorry, Deputy Warden, are you okay with that answer? Okay. Counselor Smith.
I just want to say that Central's not going to be asking for that. We do get funded, shouldn't say that. If there's a new doctor, we are in that category that we can help them. But I do want to let you know that yesterday, we had an announcement by the province. Both Rick Brzee and John Jordan were at our Family Medical Center. And we are going to be a health hub. And the money that is coming our way, we'll be looking at a nurse practitioner and some other bodies to help with different programs. So that's very, very much appreciated and will make a big difference because those nurse practitioners can attach some unattached patients, plus the other programming that will be offered to folks. So it should really help us out.
Well, congratulations on that announcement.
Who's helping the South? Anybody? Just.
Sorry. I don't believe that was a question. All right. Any other comments or questions regarding this request, this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Approved. Thank you. Item number 19, giving notice of motion. We have no notice of motion. 20 is, item 20 is communications. I noted the two regarding the EOC updates that you might find interesting. Item 21, other business. There is no other business. Item 22, bylaws, general bylaws and conservatory bylaw.
Moved by Counselor Lichty, seconded by Counselor Smith, resolved that leave be given the mover to introduce bylaw 1 that has been circulated to all members of County Council, and that bylaw 1 to be read a first and second time.
Comments, questions? All those in favor? Approved. Item 22, 2.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, seconded by Deputy Warden Vandewaal, resolved that bylaw 1 be read a third time, signed, sealed, and finally passed.
Comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Approved. Item 22.3, bylaws. Okay, there are no motions for that, so we move on to item number 23, adjournment.
Moved by Counselor Gowdy, seconded by Counselor Leonard, that this meeting of Frontenac County Council meeting be adjourned at 10:52 a.m.
And just before we adjourn, I want to thank Brianna for her tolerance. I was thinking of different words, but her support and baptism under fire. All those in favor of adjournment? Approved. Thank you very much.